Hi, my name's Helen Sharp from the Knitting School in Seattle. And today we're going to be addressing some of the common techniques for picking up drop stitches, because even if you've been machine knitting for 40 years like I have, you still drop stitches. I'm working on my Brother 260, the bulky machine today, to make it a little easier to see what's going on. Anyway, I'm going to drop a stitch right now, which normally you don't do that on purpose. And I'm going to make it drop down a little bit more. So the first thing you want to do is stop it from getting worse. And one thing you could do to help that is take weight off the comb. And then let's have a look at what's going on here. I've got one float here and then another kind of partially knit stitch here. And instead of trying to find that topmost float and pick that up, or sorry, the topmost loop, I'm going to go and stick my transfer tool in something I know I can pick up, which is right there. If even that looks a bit sketchy to you, go a little bit lower and pick up something that you know you can reach. And the reason I say that is because if you poke around in there and try and catch an actual loop, you can quite often make it worse. And our goal here is to make it better. So I've got on my latch transfer tool a loop and a partially knit loop and then a totally unknit loop. And I'm going to put all three of them onto the empty needle. And then I can get in there and like pull it down and actually see what's going on. So there's my loop from 3 rows down. And then I have 2 floats here that need re-knitting. And obviously I need to re-knit them in the order they were originally knit in. So I need to do this one first and then this one. So that top one, I'm just going to take that off the needle altogether, and with my latch tool just lift up that unknit float and push the needle towards me so that the loop that's on it will pass the latch. And now I can drop the unknit float into the latch and re-knit it by pulling back on the needle butt. And now I'm going to repeat that with the next one. So hold that float above the needle, slide the needle forward until the loop goes past the latch, and then drop the float into the hook of the needle and pull back on the needle butt. And I usually just kind of pull down a little bit there to secure it in place. So I'm going to do a slightly more dropped stitch here. So I'm going to drop one off and pull it down several. So again, we can see there's a loop in there, but rather than get that, I'm just going to go in here and lift everything up onto the needle. And now I can look and see what's going on. So I can see a loop and 1, 2, 3, 4 unknit stitches. So I'm going to take everything but the lowest one off the needle and just let it sit in front. And it's a little trickier to see this one, but there's the loop and there's the unknit stitch. So I'm just going to grab that, hold it above the needle, slide the needle forward so the loop clears the latch, and drop the float into the hook and pull back. And now I need to get this one, but instead of pulling it up in front of those floats, I need to go behind them and find that. Hold it above the needle, slide this needle forward so the stitch clears the latch, drop it into the open hook and pull back. And then repeat with this one. and the last one. So that's the technique I normally use if it's dropped down between 1 and 4 or 5 rows. Now, if it's dropped down a whole bunch of rows, like all the way down here, then I'll use a different technique for that. I'm going to use my latch tool and I'm going to go down behind all of those floats and again grab something I can be sure of grabbing. So that's stopping it from going any further once I've caught the loop. And now I'm going to push down all the way, actually I'm pushing up a little bit on the fabric to get the loop past the latch. And then holding the latch open with my thumb, I'm just going to kind of swivel it around so I can grab the lowest float and then trap that in the needle as it closes and then just pull up slightly so it knits off. And now I want to push that one past the latch. And then grab the next float and then just pull up so that knits. Slide it past the latch. Grab the next one. And just work up like that. And then once we've got the topmost one, open up the hook, open up the latch on the needle, and just drop the needle, the stitch in place. Sometimes with that one, your stitches get a little distorted. See how it's kind of smushed to one side? So I'm just going to go in there and move it back to the center. And you can also do this when it comes off the machine. So there's basic picking up single drop stitches. So here we've got a little bit more of a mess. We've got 3 stitches that have dropped down next to each other and they've kind of gone to different levels. So the first thing I want to do is just get everything back up onto the needles. So I always think of this as like a triage situation. We want to stop things getting worse before we make them better. So everything's secure, nothing's going to drop any further down. And now I can kind of poke around in there and see what I need to do. So this one just needs to knit 1 float. This one 2, and then this one 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to grab that one. That's going to be easy to fix. This one I'm going to take off the top float and re-knit the lower one. And then the top one. I think I split the yarn there. Let's have another go. And then here I need to take off 3. Sometimes it's tricky to see which is the topmost one. So if you go to the side, you can kind of see which row they're coming from, and that's the one that needs to come off. Now I can re-knit this. And then find which is the lowest one. This one. And there we go, all nice and new. So we got a bit of a mess here. I've lost 5 stitches off the edge of the knitting. So I'm going to, again, try and stop it from getting any worse by picking up loops more or less at random and trying to get them back on the right needles. And then this is the last row, which is sort of in the way right now. So I'm just gonna move that out of the way. And then let's start over here. So I've got 3 stitches next to each other that are all in the same situation, and I can treat them all at the same time by bringing them forward till the stitches clear the latches, and then just drop that in, drop the float into all 3 needles, and then pull back one by one, and then bring them forward again and do the next row. So notice that I'm not really pulling my stitches back that far. I'm just pulling them back to B. I don't want to distort the stitches by pulling them all the way to A position. So now I'm just going to deal with this one here that's dropped down a little bit further. In fact, I might use that other technique for this one. So slide the loop past the latch, pull up, next one, and the last one. Put that on the needle, just get the latch open. And now the only thing I have to deal with is the very last row. So that is going to be all 5 stitches, come forward until the loops go past the latch, and then lay it into all of them and knit them one by one. And we're back in business. I hope that video has made you a little more comfortable with picking up drop stitches. If you are interested in machine knitting, please subscribe to my channel and feel free to comment with questions or requests that you would like to see addressed.